Who are the 10 most important players to the future of the Buffalo Bills? I'm joined by 13 other Bills podcasters and content creators to answer that question today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Welcome in, folks. For the fifth consecutive year, we are going to determine who the top 10 most important players to the future of the Buffalo Bills are and rank them in order of importance. And this isn't just my list. I'm only 1/15th of the equation. I invited 13 other Buffalo Bills content creators to join me to develop a consensus ranking, and we have a fan ballot this year. So 15 ballots included in this project. So who are the other 14? I'll give them to you. A lot of them are the same ones that have been here for the entire 5-year run of this project, but there's a new name this year. Let me tell you who the panel consists of. You'll have Anthony Marino, Anthony Prohaska, Bruce Nolan, Greg Tompsett, Jeremy White. He's a new addition this year, WGR 550. He also works with me on Bill's Squad, so wanted to have him as part of this project. Jerry Ostroski, Joe Miller, John Fina, Nate Geary, Patrick Moran, Ryan Talbot, Sterling Furrow, Z-Bot, and we've also added a consensus Discord ballot. As you've heard me talk about, there is a Discord channel that goes with this podcast. The way that you can get into the Discord channel is through a subscription to either Subtext or Substack. There's links in today's show notes. And as part of this year's project, I wanted to include a fan ballot. So the 1,700 plus members of the Herd Mentality Discord channel were given the opportunity to submit their individual ballot. And so we were able to average all of those together to have a Discord ballot included as 1/15th of the equation. So here's what we did. I asked each member of the group to provide me with a list of their individual 10 most important players to the future of the Buffalo Bills. And in doing so, I asked them to look at this through the lens of, if this player reaches their ceiling and or maintains their current level of play for a number of continued years, how will that impact the success of the Buffalo Bills? Also, in doing so, I asked them to consider how important the role is that the player fills with the team. And if that player can't be the answer, how difficult it would be to find the answer. After I received all of the ballots, I averaged them together, 15 sets of rankings averaged together to develop the consensus list of the top 10 most important players to the future of the Buffalo Bills. On today's episode, we are going to unveil the top 10 with a different member of the group, providing analysis on why each player is so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills. And tomorrow on the podcast, I asked each member of the group a follow-up question, either about the uniqueness of their own rankings or the project in general. And that's always a fun follow-up session because there's a lot of uniqueness to the ballots that are sent in. And some people will have it looking completely different than others. And I asked them the hard questions about, why'd you stack it this way? And so you get a chance to hear those follow-up questions on the Tuesday episode. And I'll give you a little tease of what that's going to look like later today as well. 20 players were listed among the 15 sets of rankings. So tomorrow's podcast will also be your chance to hear about those unique rankings that extend beyond the consensus top 10. I'll give you 1 through 20 so you can really see how this thing stacks up. So today and tomorrow, I am very much embracing the role of host. I will introduce the next player on the rankings. I'll tell you some numbers about that player as it relates to the individual sets of rankings, and allow a member of the panel to share their insight and their thoughts as to why that player is so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills. Now, like I mentioned, this is the 5th year that we've been doing this, so we're starting to stack together some data year over year, a nice little sample size. Let me remind you real quick as to how last year went. Last year when we did this project, about the exact same time, the consensus top 10 most important players to the future of the Bills were number 1, Josh Allen, number 2, Dalton Kincaid, number 3, Ed Oliver, number 4, Keon Coleman, number 5, Dion Dawkins, number 6, Terrell Bernard, number 7, Greg Rouso, number 8, Matt Milano, number 9, Christian Benford, and number 10, Cole Bishop. Some highlights this year before we get into the top 10 is we have 3 new players added to the top 10, which also means 3 players fell out. That will be interesting to get into. How about this one? Only 2 of the top 5 from last year remain in the top 5 this year. A top 5 player from last year that is still on the team fell completely out of the top 10. And how about this? Josh Allen was the only consensus top 5 player across the 15 ballots. So a lot of fun to get into here today and tomorrow. Let's start. Let's get into it with the number 10 player in this year's consensus rankings. And the number 10 player is defensive tackle Ed Oliver. After landing at number 3 last year, Oliver fell to number 10 and was actually not included on 8 of the 15 ballots. Here's Ryan Talbot on why Ed Oliver is still so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
What's up, Bills Mafia? I'm Ryan Talbot of the Syracuse Post-Standard and co-host of the Shout Buffalo Football podcast, here to tell you why Ed Oliver is our number 10 player in our consensus top 10 players to the future of the Buffalo Bills. I actually had Ed Oliver at number 7 on my list. You know, I looked at Oliver's season last year, and I don't think it was necessarily as bad as a lot of Bills fans tend to think. Yes, if you look just at the stats, they dropped off. He went from 9.5 sacks in 2023 to 3 sacks last season. But sometimes stats and stat boxes don't always tell the story. Ed Oliver was still a dominant force on the inside of Buffalo's defensive line. And you can look at the win rates that he posted last year against the run and against the pass. Last year, Ed Oliver was ranked number 9 in the league among defensive tackles for run win rate. He had 69 wins on 181 plays. That just goes to show you how Ed Oliver can get past those offensive linemen, get into the backfield, and make some big plays. You look at the pass rush win rate, 25 wins last season, which helped him get number 11 among all defensive tackles. He was still in that upper echelon of D tackles last year, despite the stats not necessarily showing that in the box scores. So to me, Ed Oliver is so important based on what the Bills did this offseason. Look at all the additions that they made. You have Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi. Yes, they're both going to be serving 6-game suspensions at the start of the year, but the Bills brought them in for a reason. They're trying to help add more talent around this defensive line. They had Joey Bosa in free agency. You go into the draft, and they get a lot of defensive line help as well. Landon Jackson, a player they're very high on. They go with a double dip at defensive tackle, TJ Sanders and Deion Walker. All these players they're adding into the mix to try to help take this unit to the next level and trying to help Ed Oliver, and players that have been very productive, but maybe they haven't had the help that they've needed along this defensive line. In years past, last year, I feel like the linebacker play at times did no favors for Ed Oliver. Terrell Bernard said as much at points last season. You know, he went on to say that Oliver needed more help from the linebackers, where he's taking on, he being Ed Oliver, unnecessary double teams because they're not shooting down and getting after these offensive linemen, which makes life that much more difficult. So if the collective group around Oliver improves, that should allow Ed Oliver to really shine that much more as a player. And maybe you'll see those stats go up again. But Ed Oliver himself, you know, don't just look at the stats. He was still a very dominant force for this team. He was a difference maker for this defense, and he is someone that the Bills absolutely need if they want to be successful in 2025 in the future. Once again, I'm Ryan Talbot of the Syracuse Post-Standard and Shout Buffalo Football podcast.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. The insights, folks, they are surprising. When I first started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and I save more. The convenience is awesome. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan for your long-term goals. And the collaboration opportunities are super simple. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Welcome back, folks. The Buffalo Bills' first-round pick, Maxwell Hairston, lands at number 9 in this year's rankings, continuing the trend that every top pick in the Bills draft cracks the top 10 in their rookie season. 10 of 15 ballots ranked Hairston. Z-Bot had him at number 6, and he's here to tell us why Maxwell Hairston is so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
What's up, Bills Mafia? Z-Bot here from the Buffalo Fanatics to tell you why Maxwell Hairston is one of the top 10 most important players to the future of the Buffalo Bills. Despite having not played a single snap yet in the NFL, expectations are sky high for the Bills' 2025 first-round draft pick, and for good reason. The corner out of Kentucky seemed to be Brandon Beane's pick of the cornerback litter. By the time the Bills were on the clock in round 1, they had their choice of several top-name prospects at the position, including Will Johnson, Benjamin Morrison, and Trey Amos. Beane chose Hairston without hesitation, though, which immediately emphasized to the fan base just how confident the organization seems to be in him. One of the reasons Hairston was able to separate himself from the pack is his blazing speed. Hairston was the fastest player in the entire 2025 NFL Combine, posting a sub-4.3 40 time. That's the type of speed that even Beane himself thought would have Hairston off the board well before the Bills had a chance to take him. The Bills haven't had a defensive player with this kind of speed during the Sean McDermott era, and I think it might be one of those attributes that Hairston brings to the table that we don't know how we lived without. Hairston seems to be a lightning rod that's going to come in and electrify this defense as it currently is, and I don't think this could be happening at a more pivotal time. The Bills' pass defense in 2024 was a bottom half defense, and they posed several different metrics that were towards the tail end of the league. One of the big reasons why the Bills' pass defense hasn't been as great as you'd hope is because they've been searching for a corner for some time now. And it's all the more reason why Maxwell Hairston's importance to the future of these Bills is so massive. If Hairston can truly be the guy the Bills have drafted him to be and bolster up that secondary, it can take those numbers and make him an afterthought. And if that's the case, this Bills team becomes a whole different monster. The big point of emphasis here, though, is that Hairston was the first of 6 defensive picks by the Buffalo Bills in this past draft. Hairston is essentially going to be the face of what feels like a defensive renaissance in Buffalo. The Bills have been very self-aware, and they've made it known that their shortcomings in the postseason have not been because of their MVP quarterback, but mainly because of the defensive side of the ball. Almost the entirety of this past Bills draft class was handpicked to help the Bills defense become an advantage for Josh Allen and the Bills offense as opposed to a hindrance. And it feels like this class is the new wave of Buffalo Bills defense, and Maxwell Hairston is going to be the leader of it. And that's why we view him as one of the top 10 most important players to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
Our number 2 player entering 2024, Dalton Kincaid, slides to number 8 in this year's rankings. While he fell a bit, only 4 players actually left him off their top 10 ballot. Jeremy White had him at number 6, and he's here to tell us why Dalton Kincaid is so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
I'm Jeremy White of WGR Sports Radio 550 and the Locked On Bills Squad Chat. And I'm here to tell you why Dalton Kincaid is the consensus 8th overall player on the most important players to the Bills going forward. Dalton Kincaid is, of course, a high draft pick. And when they drafted him, it really represented an offensive buy-in, kind of a shift. They were going to switch from the 11 personnel that they ran during Josh Allen's first window with Diggs and Beasley and Brown and Emmanuel Sanders and Gabe Davis and be more of a 2 tight end team. And the goal was to be more multiple, to have more threat of run pass, to have Kincaid out there either against defensive backs or linebackers and give different looks. And it's gotten off to a bit of a rocky start, but at the same time, he's still greatly talented. The gifts are there. I can think back to Bill's training camp, his first season, and he was the buzz of training camp. It was all about how good he was, how fluid he was, how they were not slow feeding him, spoon feeding him the offense. He was really a part of it from day one. And we've seen glimpses, right? We've seen some of what Kincaid can do. He's very smooth. He's got great hands. What happened from year 1 to year 2, whether that's a change in the offense, uncertainty in the offense, lack of chemistry with Josh Allen, or just some bad luck along the way, injuries as well, I expect Kincaid to have a bounce back. And the ceiling for him really is to be the crown jewel of the Bills' passing offense. Brandon Beanen, speaking about this offense, referenced both Rob Gronkowski with New England and Travis Kelce with Patrick Mahomes. In defending his build, where they don't spend a ton at receiver in terms of draft capital, he talked about tight end being in that mix. And he's not wrong to do that. Those are pretty high bars to set, Gronk and Kelce. So I think the goal for Kincaid is still to be the crown jewel of the offense, and that's why he's one of the top players in terms of how important he is to their future. Again, I'm Jeremy White from WGR Sports Radio 550. Follow me on Twitter at JeremyWGR and in the Locked On Bills Squad episodes with Joe and Jerry O on YouTube.
After leading the Bills in receiving in 2025, Khalil Shakir makes the consensus rankings for the first time, debuting at number 7. Shakir was 14th last year, but with only 2 ballots, not including him this year, he comfortably made the list. Here's Greg Tompsett to tell us why Khalil Shakir is so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One. This isn't my show. But I'm still the host of the Cover One Buffalo podcast, Greg Tompsett. Excited to join Joe Marino and the Locked On collaboration squad here for the 10 players most important to the Buffalo Bills' future. And I have the privilege of presenting Khalil Shakir, our number 7 overall ranked player, someone I had 4th on my ballot. And I think it's because there's a differentiation in the fan base and amongst content creators of whether Khalil Shakir is a nice story and someone who earned a new extension and has been a really cool underdog to root for as a day 3 pick who's turned himself into a nice player, or whether there's more to be had here. And I'm certainly in that boat, that I think there's more to discover from Khalil Shakir. And I think that what we've seen so far, I've made some lofty analogies and comparisons here. But if you go and look at some of the efficiency metrics, and you look at things like yards per route run, and you look at the EPA per play, and the positive additions that he makes, even some of the more basic stats like passer rating and his catch percentage, and some of the different areas, there's always been underlying excitement of like, hey, if we give this guy more opportunity and more touches, there could be something really, really special here. And then oftentimes those players that are in that scenario, you give them a career high in targets and you see the efficiency come down. Well, last year, when Khalil Shakir in his 3 seasons has gone from 23 targets to 56 targets to last year, a career high 115 targets, more than double his previous high, he also went from 1.75 yards per route run to 2.2 yards per route run. And that kind of spike is what gives me the, I'll whisper it here. That's kind of what Amon-Ra St. Brown did for Detroit, in that he was a nice story, super high efficiency. If he only got a little bit more volume, but he probably won't continue on the same efficiency if he gets that volume. And then all of a sudden they kept feeding him the ball and he maintained that efficiency and he kept going more and more. And he was more than just a nice slot player. He was the number one passing option in their offense. Sure, it was still from the slot and he played outside a little bit here or there. I think there's a non-zero chance that kind of upside, or at least more upside, is available here for a player like Khalil Shakir. So I'm really excited that Joe gave me the opportunity to speak about him. I think that there's an exciting future here, and at minimum, a really, really high floor of a great player that we have locked in at a very nice value. So looking forward to hearing the breakdown for the rest of the guys, but that's going to do it here for me. Again, my name is Greg Tompsett. You can check out all my work over at Cover One Buffalo and everywhere that you find the great work here at Locked On. But on behalf of everybody else, thanks for checking us out here, and go Bills.
Terrel Bernard was number 6 in 2024 and lands in the exact same slot this year. Bruce Nolan had him individually ranked at number 4, and he's here to tell us why Terrel Bernard is so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
I'm Bruce Nolan, host of the Bruce Exclusive Podcast, and I'm here to tell you why Terrel Bernard is the number 6 player on our consensus top 10 players to the future of the Buffalo Bills. The way I've historically approached this exercise is as follows. Take the worst case scenario for the player, which is suffers a career-ending injury tomorrow and never plays again, and think about that impact on the team. Then take the best case scenario for the player, which is hits their ceiling as a player or maintains the ceiling they're currently at for the next few years, and think about that impact on the team. Now, take the differential between point A and point B, and that is how we define importance. The Bills signed Terrel Bernard to a 4-year, $50 million contract extension this offseason, and simultaneously modified Matt Milano's contract to include both a pay cut and a new time horizon where he'll be a free agent after the 2025 season concludes. Some quick stats on Terrel Bernard. Among linebackers with 400 or more coverage snaps in 2025, Bernard ranked 5th in passer rating into his man coverage, 64.6. He also ranked 11th best in passer rating into his zone coverage, 96.1. Let's look at the run defense. Among linebackers with 300 or more run defense snaps in 2025, Bernard ranked 12th in run stop percentage at 8.7. Among that same group, he ranked 14th best in missed tackle percentage at 7.8. So you have a productive and recently extended linebacker in a linebacker-centric defense with his partner in crime seemingly deprioritized in terms of the future. That makes Bernard a pivotal piece for the next few years. Again, I'm Bruce Nolan, host of the Bruce Exclusive Podcast. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Bruce Exclusive, and look for new episodes of the Bruce Exclusive every Thursday, wherever you find your podcasts.
Welcome to the top 5. At number 5, Spencer Browns. Nate Geary was tied with 2 other panel members for ranking him the highest on their individual ballots at number 3 overall. Nate's here to tell us why Spencer Brown is so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
Hey everyone, I'm Nate Geary, host of Bills pregame, halftime, and postgame on WGR 550, and I'm here breaking down why Spencer Brown ranks number 5 on our consensus list of the top 10 players shaping the future of the Buffalo Bills. After making his debut on our list way back in 2023, Brown fell off of our list last year in 2024 following an up and down season. But in 2025, he's back, and he's not just on the list, he's firmly planted in our group's top 5. This return to form came on the heels of a breakout year in which Brown lived up to the promise that led Buffalo to invest in him long term. Just a year after signing a 4-year, $72 million extension, Brown had his best season of his career, and it showed in every phase of his game. As a run blocker, Brown was dominant. He finished the 2024 season ranked 14th out of 140 qualifying offensive tackles by Pro Football Focus, which put him in elite company. His power at the point of attack and ability to move defenders in space makes him a major asset in the Bills' running game. But it wasn't just the run game where Brown made strides this year. As a pass protector, he improved year over year, giving up just 1 sack this last season. In 2024, he ranked 32nd amongst all qualifying tackles in PFF's pass blocking grades, which, if you were keeping track at home, is a significant jump that reflects the work he's been putting in since entering the league. When he did enter the league coming out of Northern Iowa, Brown was known for that elite athletic profile, a perfect 10 relative athletic score, which is incredibly rare for a tackle his size. And that rare athleticism isn't just a number on paper. It jumps off on screen each and every week, whether he's climbing to the second level, pulling out in front of a screen, or sealing the edge on wide zone plays. Brown moves with fluidity and burst you just really don't see at the tackle position. That movement skill was a game changer for Joe Brady's offense in 2024 specifically. The Bills' screen game took huge leaps last year, thanks in large part to Brown's ability to create mismatches in open space, whether it was James Cook catching passes out of the backfield or if it was Khalil Shakir breaking open on a bubble or a slip screen. Brown was often the one clearing the way and creating those lanes. If he continues on this trajectory, don't be surprised if we're talking about Spencer Brown next year as a top 3 player, not just a top 5 one, and maybe even one of, if not the best right tackle in all of football. I'm Nate Geary with WGR Sports Radio 550 and the Buffalo Bills Radio Network.
Slotting at number 9 in 2024, cornerback Christian Benford climbs all the way to number 4 this year. And how about this? Benford and Allen are the only 2 players to appear on all 15 ballots submitted. Patrick Moran had him at number 2, and he's here to tell us why Christian Benford is so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
Hey, all. Patrick Moran from Talking Buffalo, here to tell you why Christian Benford is the number 4 player on our consensus top 10 players critical to the future of the Buffalo Bills. The first reason, the most obvious, Christian Benford has emerged as one of the true great young cornerbacks in the NFL. Per PFF, Benford gave up just 31 catches for 279 yards, 2 touchdowns for the entire season. NFL passer rating against him, just 72.3. Benford's overall PFF grade for the season, 82.6. 4th best in the NFL among corners, behind just Patrick Surtain, Trent McDuffie, and the rookie Cooper DeJean. His tackling grade, 2nd best among all corner starters. His coverage grade, 4th best in the league. Now, I know PFF grades can be deceiving, sometimes really deceiving. I mean, let's not forget, a short time ago, Terrell Dodson, when he was with the Bills, one of the highest graded linebackers in the NFL on PFF. I mean, who really thought that was truly the case? But in this case, though, Christian Benford, his performance matches up with the elite level grades that he earned with them. The other reason why I think he's so critical to both the present and the future of the Bills is because we've seen the drop-off without him. Unfortunately, Benford got hurt very early in the AFC title game, lost to Kansas City this past season. Year before that, he got hurt in the playoffs, didn't even play at all in the divisional round loss to Kansas City 2 years ago, and we saw the results. I mean, the Bills' pass defense was pretty much helpless without Christian Benford out there, and that's for good reason. Again, he's one of the best in the NFL. By the way, Benford was also on IR, and he didn't play in the playoffs at all in 2022 when they ended up getting blown out in the divisional round at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. So his availability for a full season, including the playoffs, is probably the lone concern that I have about him right now. Anyway, the dude's just turning 25 years old. Early in the season, too. He's only 24 right now. He'll be 25 when the season starts. He's locked up long term. He plays a premium position. And in my opinion, he does it just about as well as anybody out there. So for me, therefore, a very easy choice to be ranked very high on the players critical to the future of the Buffalo Bills. You can find me on all socials, Patrick Moran TV, and make sure to check out Talking Buffalo every Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts from, as well as YouTube on the video side.
You already know. At number 3 is Dion Dawkins, who, along with Josh Allen, is the only player to appear on the list for all 5 years that we've done this project. This is his 4th consecutive year in the top 5, and at number 3, it's his highest rank yet. Sterling Furrow is here to tell us why Dion Dawkins is still so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
Hello, my name is Sterling Furrow, and I'm the host of the Charge podcast, and I'm here to tell you why Dion Dawkins is our number 3 consensus player to the future of the Buffalo Bills. What's not to like about the showman? He is the complete tone setter for this Buffalo Bills offense in the locker room, on the field. I mean, everything about Dion Dawkins is, let's say, unorthodox, from the shirtless interviews to trash talking divisional opponents to the tattoo that he recently got of Josh Allen. I mean, the dude is just freaking awesome. He is the epitome of Bills Mafia. One of the things, though, the reason why I have him so high is that you see continual growth and development from Dion Dawkins. I mean, right now I have him ranked as a top 3 offensive tackle in his league, and he's not number 3. I think a lot of that has to do with Aaron Cromer and what he's been able to do in his time in Buffalo. But on the field, you see the improved balance and ability to create pass lanes with his wide unorthodox splits. To me, he's redefining the way left tackle is being played. The ability to mirror pass rushers. I think if you go back and you watch that Kansas City game, the one in the regular season, time and time again, you see that elite hand placement that Dion Dawkins plays with, the lateral agility, and also, you know, his willingness and ability to get to the second level, right? I think those things are important. Last season, out of 585 pass blocking snaps, Dion Dawkins only allowed 22 pressures. I think that's pretty freaking good. And since 2019, he's only allowed 4 sacks in the pro season. So, you know, I think he's Josh Allen's right-hand man, dude. Dion Dawkins is amazing. And as a fan, you got to love what he's been able to do for us on the field. So I'm Sterling Furrow. I'm the host of the Charge podcast right here on YouTube. And go Bills.
Greg Rouso comes in at number 2. A mainstay in these rankings. Rouso has been a consensus top 10 player every year since he was drafted, but number 2 is his highest slot yet. Anthony Prohaska is here to tell us why Greg Rouso is so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
What's good, folks? I'm Anthony Prohaska, host of Disguised Coverage and co-host of the Cover One Film Room, here to tell you why Gregory Rouso is the number 2 player in our consensus top 10 players to the future of the Buffalo Bills. For me, it starts with the new contract he got this offseason. He is now edge 12 in terms of average annual value. He is edge 9 in total value and total guaranteed. The Buffalo Bills have paid him like a top 10 edge. They have paid him like a premium player at a premium position. And that matters in and of itself, but also because I still think he's growing as a player and isn't necessarily at the holistic level that his contract says he is. He still has room for improvement as a rusher, and more importantly, he has the capacity for improvement as a rusher. And that's to go along with being one of the best run defenders in all of football and a true force multiplier in that regard as a run defender. But I don't think he's an edge 1 as a pass rusher yet. So you've paid a guy like a top 10 edge when, for me, I don't think he's necessarily there yet. But he legitimately could be middle of this year, end of this year, sometime this year, or in the coming years. And if he is, then his contract that he received this offseason will look tremendous as other guys surpass him and we do this dance of guys get paid at the position and surpass others, so on and so forth. He's so important to the future of the Buffalo Bills because if he continues on his upward trajectory, the one that he's been on the past several years, you will have a legitimate top 10 edge in football, which is absolutely huge. And if he doesn't continue on his upward trajectory, and if he plateaus, well, then you've committed a lot of money to a guy at a position where you'll still need to find very strong running mates for him or find someone to be the Batman to his Robin as a rusher. And in doing that, you might still be playing this game of musical chairs at edge year after year after year that you've been playing for quite some time. Either way, the Bills have committed to a guy at a premium position who plays a premium role schematically for the defense and who is now a cornerstone of the defense and the cornerstone of a position tasked with getting after the quarterback regularly. He looms very large on the importance of this team. So the level at which he plays is now further under a significant microscope, and he becomes a player that can be a large domino positively or negatively for the Buffalo Bills defense and team as a whole. Again, I am Anthony Prohaska. You can follow me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro2_ANT. Find me on Blue Sky at proant. No underscores there, just PROANT. And you can find Disguise Coverage and the Cover One Film Room on YouTube and wherever you find your podcasts.
To the surprise of absolutely nobody, Josh Allen is the number one player and the consensus number one player from all 15 ballots submitted. To present Josh Allen, we have the overreaction crew of Joe Miller, John Fina, and Geary Ostroski to explain why the reigning NFL MVP is the most important player to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
What is going on, everybody? Joe Miller from the Overreaction Buffalo Podcast Network, alongside my co-host Geary Ostroski and John Fina, two former Buffalo Bills, and we are here to talk about, discuss, at the behest of Joe Marino from the Locked On Podcast, Locked On Bills Podcast, why Josh Allen is not only this year, but consistently every year, the consensus number one person to the future of the Buffalo Bills. So, gentlemen, I'm going to let you guys go first. Geary Ostroski, why is Josh Allen the most important player to the future of the Buffalo Bills?
You have to look at it this way, fellas. I mean, you're talking about a player that not very often can you say one man can win a football game alone by himself. And we've seen Josh Allen win games in Buffalo since his career started in Orchard Park many, many times by himself. He's a player that's generational. He is an amazing and might be the best athlete that we've seen at that quarterback position. Huge arm and an unbelievable asset for the Bills. And honestly, just arguably the best player in the league. So how do you replace that guy? I don't think you do.
Agreed. John.
Well, you definitely can't replace him, Jerry, and you're spot on. He's a guy that can win a game for you. But what I love about Josh and what I think continually needs to evolve with him is his ability to grow, his understanding of the game, and relying on the characters around him a little bit more. So just when you think if you just stop Josh Allen, then he becomes a smarter guy. He elevates his play to making sure that every bit of philosophy that they cram into the playbook, that he has the ability to deliver on the field. And I think he's got that emotional capability. He's definitely got the mental power for it. And he's shown that he grows with the offense. If he continues to do that and keeps the same level of play and grows a little bit in that regard, he's the man.
Yeah, for me, every week, for those of you that aren't necessarily listeners to the Overreaction Sports Network, after every football game, Bills game, we do a post-game show, and inside of that post-game show, we do the Dude Awards. Basically, so like the player that did the best in the game, had the best game, we give them the Dude Award. And we kind of have a rule amongst the three of us that we don't give the Dude Award to Josh Allen, because Josh Allen is that dude. And I think for me, what kind of brought it like full circle, I've done this exercise with Joe Marino for I think 3 or 4, maybe 5 years now. And as I've gone through the cycles of who is the most important player, the only one, no matter who I picked last year, it almost was like, I think I picked Dalton Connette, 3rd or 4th. I don't remember exactly who else I picked, but I picked other players, and it's like they weren't that important, and the Bills still won a heap of games and went to the playoffs and made hay in the playoffs. And I feel like Josh Allen is just that guy. You drop him on any football team in the league, and most likely they're going to be a playoff contender. Any final thoughts?
I think the most important thing to Josh and his time in Buffalo is the fact that he's the glue of the franchise.
Yeah.
It's not very often that a player of his status is able to get to the level of his teammates like he does, get to the level of the franchise like he does, and then also extend out into the fan base.
Yeah.
And it's safe to say that, you hate to say a player saved the franchise. I'm not saying he saved Buffalo, but after a 17-year drought, it's quite obvious to me that Josh Allen is the major difference between then and now, and how he's steeled not only the locker room, but the franchise itself in the city of Buffalo. I think he's that important.
Yeah, I honestly feel like you could literally go 1 through 10, Josh Allen, the Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, Josh Allen, Josh Allen, Josh Allen, Josh Allen, and they get down to pretty much Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, Bobby Babbage, and that would be pretty much your most important players to the future of the Buffalo Bills.
He is unassailable in his character at One Bills Drive, in the locker room, in the community, and really in the country and far and wide across the planet. Unassailable character.
Yep. Joe Marino, thank you so much for letting us talk about Josh Allen real quick. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. That there is Jerry Ostroski. You can find him on Twitter at Ostroski_Bigelow. And then, of course, John Fina. You can find him on Twitter at John Fina. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Much love. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
All right, folks. So that was the consensus top 10 players. But tomorrow on the podcast, we are going to extend this conversation to the top 20, and you're going to get follow-up questions for every single member of this panel who all had unique rankings and some things that are very different. And I asked them specific questions about how they saw the project and where they were in particular different from the consensus. But I want to give you a little tease of what that's going to look like. And we're going to start with this question for Anthony Marino. Anthony, you knew this question was coming. You were the only panel member to include James Cook on your top 10 ballot, and he was the last player on your list. He barely snuck in. Why did you include him? Why didn't anyone else? And what does this say about the Bills and how they should navigate the contract negotiations?
Hey, everybody. Anthony Marino here from BuffaloRumblings.com. Happy to be back again as part of the panel this year, and I'm here to talk about James Cook. Because not surprisingly, I am the only member of the panel that included the Buffalo Bills star running back in my top 10. It's interesting. I think there's been a shift around the NFL. You think of those top offenses across the league, you see them making an investment in the running back position. You've got the Philadelphia Eagles with Saquon Barkley. Of course, you can look to the Baltimore Ravens and what they've been doing with Derrick Henry. And of course, look at the Detroit Lions. Their two-headed monster, Jahmyr Gibbs, a first-round draft pick, and a healthy investment in David Montgomery at running back for them. The Buffalo Bills, no exception, right? James Cook, 2 Pro Bowls in a row, over 1,000 yards rushing each of the last 2 seasons. And the Bills made an investment with him as a second-round pick coming into the last year of his contract. Now, maybe it's that contract status that left some of my peers, a little bit perplexed and had them keep him off the list. But, if you follow me on Twitter at Anthony Marino or any other forms of social media, I'm pro running back, and many of the other guys on the panel here, they like to poke fun at my expense because let's just say they don't value the position the same way that I do. But I do have a feeling that the Cook and the Bills will end up coming to an agreement with a new contract extension sometime around the end of training camp. We'll continue to see James Cook shine in the Buffalo Bills backfield and show everybody that he is an integral piece to the team's success, not just this year, but also in the future. I mean, listen, 16 rushing touchdowns does not happen just by mistake. We all know those are not 1-yard plunges. He's not the beneficiary of the tush push. That is Josh Allen, and, he fills that role. And James Cook, he is that dynamic back for the Buffalo Bills. The most consistent weapon that they have on offense, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the 2024 season. So, albeit it's not too surprising that I was the only one to include him in my top 10, I'm happy to carry that torch for James Cook and all running backs across the NFL. So, thanks again for having me be a part of the panel. It's Anthony Marino. You can find my work each week at BuffaloRumblings.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at Anthony Marino. Take care.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this. On tomorrow's podcast, I'm going to reveal the entire rankings, all 20 players that received votes, and how that averaged out. And, of course, follow-up questions for the panel regarding something unique on their individual ballot. So come on back. Make sure that you're subscribed. I'd love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.